Does he have a case to win Sun Belt Offensive Player of the Year?
I feel like he should be.
Right? Like, am I crazy for thinking like it's not even a competition?
It feels like with the record, which like maybe gets too important for some of these individual awards, but the 11-1 record, finishing atop the East, kind of snuck up on me touchdown wise. 40 total touchdowns.
Leads the Sun Belt in total touchdowns.
He
He
had like
he also
not many through 3 weeks.
He's second behind Joey Aguilar in just passing touchdowns by just one. Aguilar only has 2 rushing touchdowns. McCloud has 8. McCloud is a dynamic threat through the air. And I know we kind of rag on him in terms of read option, but his scrambling ability and his legs do make him a dynamic dual threat quarterback. He averages more yards per game on the ground than Aguilar does by, I believe, 4 more. So he averages 26 yards per game. McCloud does on the ground. Aguilar averages 22 on the ground. And then McCloud has those rushing touchdowns he adds on as well.
McCloud's just been really impressive. He knows where to go with the ball. He's gotten a lot better from the start of the season until now. Throws an unreal deep ball. Completion percentage is really good. I think the App State game is the only game, and he was at like 58.7% that his completion percentage was sub 60. He was just super consistent in the early going and was like a solid player. Back half of the conference schedule, he looked like one of the like best 15 or 20 quarterbacks in the country.
And that was against bowl eligible teams. Every single one of those games was a bowl eligible team.
Yeah.
Which is just like insane.
Yeah, their end of no, I was just gonna say the end of the year conference play, and even the beginning, like their conference schedule, every conference team they played, right, was bowl eligible.
Yes. Did South Alabama reach 6 wins?
Yeah.
Then yeah, they were undefeated against bowl eligible. They lost 1 game against bowl eligible teams.
So they played they were 8-1 against bowl eligible teams. Their other wins: Bucknell, Virginia, and UConn.
Yeah, and if you look at UVA and UConn, they were 1 possession games away from being bowl eligible. So we can just count them in there.
Yeah, there you go. So in Bucknell, if they're at the FBS, who knows? You know what I mean?
Who knows what they do? But I'm going to throw some stats at you to try and really harden my case for why Jordan McCloud is the Sun Belt Offensive Player of the Year. He's the only quarterback in the Sun Belt to rank in the top 2 in each one of these statistical categories. He's first in completion percentage. He's second in total pass yards, second in passing touchdowns, first in total touchdowns, second in passing touchdowns, first in QB efficiency, second in EPA per attempt, and second in QBR.
It sounds like he's the best player in the conference.
The only issue, and this is going to be I'm going to rebuttal myself and kind of argue with myself here. The only difference, though, is in all of those ones, he's second. So he's second in pass yards. He's behind Davis Brin. That doesn't count. Clay Helton throws it 50 times a game. Pass touchdowns, EPA per attempt, and QBR, which are kind of more advanced stats. And I don't know if the voters are necessarily taking into effect like these expected points added. But he's behind only Joey Aguilar, who is like second in a lot of other categories. But Aguilar is 8th in completion percentage and 4th in total yards. So I think that kind of outweighs the good that Aguilar has. He's kind of bad in these 2 other statistical categories. And McCloud is top 2 in literally every single one.
Man, I don't know when they vote.
Neither
is it pre or post conference title? Probably post, right?
Probably post. But I mean, Aguilar's probably going to have a bad game against Troy.
That's true. If he goes out and they win it and he goes for something crazy, maybe. But I still think McCloud's got a great chance, a great case, as you just outlined. And as Kurt Signetti said post-game, they got him back next year.
They do. We knew coming into the year he had 2 years of eligibility, but I think there was a question mark of, is he going to come back? Is he going to test, the NFL market? Is he going to maybe transfer again? He's already transferred twice. But it sounds like the Dukes expect him. I think it was a 99% chance that he comes back and uses that 6th year of eligibility that he has, which is going to be awesome to see, because you said his improvement from beginning of the year to end of the year, his improvement just overall under this coaching staff is insane. If you take his stats from 2019, 2020, and 2021 and combine them all into one season, which the games played, it equals out roughly one season, a little bit more, and compared to now, he had 4.58% more passing yards. So those 3 years combined, he had 3,251 passing yards. He had 3,400 this season. He had a better completion percentage by 10%. He had 32 passing touchdowns compared to 23, a 39% increase. He increased his passing yards per game by 89%. The only part of his game that kind of regressed was throwing interceptions, but not really all that bad. He went from throwing 0.65 interception per game to 0.75 interceptions per game. Nothing really crazy. That's not really statistically significant growth, but he jumped in every single category, like by a wide margin.
Yeah, it would be fun to go back and listen to like our April podcast, like post spring game, talking about how Jordan McCloud was going to go crazy. And then Jordan McCloud went crazy despite being QB2 somehow coming out of fall camp. A very confusing offseason and summer. But this is like what we expected. We knew from like watching basic clips in like random games that was like, oh, he's super athletic and like makes good throws. If he's well coached, he's probably going to be really good. And you can kind of just assume with this staff now that like if the guy has the traits, they'll coach him into playing really well, which is an incredible thing to have as a fan to know like, hey, the coaches are going to put him in a good spot. And like the longer the year goes, the better they'll get. Because he played so well late in the year, sort of with the exception of the start against App State. And App's got one of the best secondaries in the entire
And
Sun Belt.
he did still shred them when he needed to.
Big time, big time.
Like on a 4th and 18, he decides to just throw a dot to Surratt. I mean, he is just very good at football. I think it's that simple. And I do want to get your take on this before we move off of Jordan McCloud being the Sun Belt Offensive Player of the Year. Remember early in the season when Kurt Signetti said he has a lot of losing tendencies? He comes from programs that don't know how to win. How true do you think that actually was now looking back at how the rest of the season played out?
Arizona's pretty good, it turns out. So it makes me question it a little bit because aren't they like they're like top 15 team right now? They're playing out of their mind with like the same staff. So I get what he was going for. I think it probably was some of it, right? Adjusting to like, hey, these are the habits I need to have to really excel in Jamie's offense. Some of it too, though, I feel like is like just building up the chemistry with the receivers, right? If he's not getting quarterback one reps, getting there with Reggie Brown. And a lot of people probably forget Surratt started the year as a backup receiver to Taji Hudson
Yeah.
and ended the year with more than 1,000 yards. Like once they realized like, oh, like he needs to be a starting receiver, the offense kind of picked up significantly. Like didn't he? I think he had the touchdown catch against Troy, the one touchdown. And then he just sort of built and built and built. Once they had the right guys in there with the Sproles, Brown, Hudson, or not, sorry, not Hudson, Surratt, and then Horton, a lot of H's. Once they got that going, then it felt like everything sort of clicked into place and the passing game was elite and they figured out sort of what McCloud could do well and how to make in the right reads and everything clicked. And then also, as you mentioned, they stopped running it so much on first and second down so
Jesus,
that
thank
the
goodness.
defenses weren't completely keyed in on the run. And then he started cooking too. So some of it might be like, hey, he had some losing tendencies. Some of it is like, I thought they just did a better job of like, we need to play these players and call these plays.
Yeah. I will say the one kind of flaw in Jordan McCloud's game, and I think this is a flaw in a lot of quarterbacks' game, is when it's on 3rd and throw, he struggles in like passing situations.
Yeah.
Which he played well against App State late in that game. He is a baller. Like Jordan McCloud, we saw it against Bucknell, we saw it against UVA, we saw it against Marshall when he gets hurt, comes back in, has a good run. Like all this, he is a gamer. He is a baller. But there are times when it's like 3rd and 10 in the second quarter, and it's like, well, we can just punt now.
Right. And I don't know if he's like, I know we talked about like the NFL future. I don't know that he's going to be like an NFL starter.
Not.
But
he's 6 foot, like 200. He's not.
That's what's so impressive though, is like they're putting him with receivers who like Surratt and Brown, maybe they have some pro potential. I don't know exactly like what level.
I think Brown will get a look, and I think Surratt after a few years will be an NFL caliber.
Surratt looks like an NFL guy, yes, for sure. But it's just super interesting where it's not like they have, I don't know, it's not Marvin Harrison Jr. Like it's one where they're just finding ways to scheme some stuff up, make it work with quarterbacks who are very good, but like Centeo, Cole Johnson, Jordan McCloud, none of those guys are like top 5 in the NFL draft. It's not like they have Drake May and they're making it work.
I mean,
like
they're no Ben DiNucci.
Well, even getting that out of Ben, who looked like he like barely belonged on an FCS field.
Whoa. He looked fine his first year under Houston.
He was.
Mike Houston did not put him in situations to succeed. Let's not destroy Ben DiNucci's name here on this podcast. This is a Ben DiNucci stan podcast, Bennett.
That he was okay. He looked like a very
Look, one bad
athletic.
game where he throws 5 interceptions and everyone forgets what he did for the rest of the season.
He was super athletic and clearly was good enough to be an FCS player. That was hyperbole. But his decision making was suspect. Finger gun decision making. I feel like they just have a really good, impressive ability to have guys like know where to go to the right spot, and good enough receivers to make plays.
I agree.